good to give thanks to the Lord. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. They're planted in the house of the Lord. They flourish in the courts of our God. They still bear fruit in old age. They are ever full of sap and green, to declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. Hey, nice song.
Mm-hmm.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's Rabbi Kalibah's song.
So it's interesting because that song is, you know, when one of the things I've noticed with Psalms, that when you sing the Psalms, you always sing the little introduction bit as well. So like Shir LaMa'alot, like the Song of Descents, is actually. You make that part of the song.
Yeah, it's part of the song completely.
Because for us, we just go right to the first word.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yes.
No, it's...
So I really never took in that Psalm 92, it says a song for the Shevat. And I'd never taken that in because I just go, okay,
so verse 1 is actually good to give thanks.
It is good to give thanks.
Oh, really? So
yes.
for us, it's verse 2.
Yes.
Verse 1 is a psalm for the Shabbat.
It's interesting, though.
Mm-hmm.
Just thought that was the title.
Yeah. So, 1 month has passed.
I know, I've been and gone. I mean, I went and came back.
What have you been doing this month?
I was back in Canada, which was great. Great to see family, and really good to come back.
No, did you go for like Christmas and?
Yeah. I was there for Christmas. We celebrated Christmas a couple of days later. It's not on time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it was it was really nice to be with the kids and just kind of do family things together. I enjoyed that.
Good.
It's I was thinking, like, I've just been back a week. I came back a week yesterday, And it feels like this week so much has happened this week. I was talking to some friends today, you know, telling them about things they can be praying about, and I just realised I started listing off all the things that are happening. Going, wow, this is.
For example, what's coming in your way?
Well, yeah, things that I'm doing, or conferences that I'm going to do, or things that little changes for me. And
our week in March, for example.
Oh yeah.
Another Now week coming.
Yeah, we made a big decision, didn't we, this week?
Yes, we did.
That
Yes,
even though it's a small group, but we just so feel that this is.
Yeah, I think that's also very much connected to what we're going to talk about today, in a way.
Yes,
in a way,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah. But they still don't know, so we have to tell them.
All
what
right.
is it that we're going to be talking about today?
So you tell us. So first of all, what's this month?
So we're now
always
starting the month of Shevat. Okay, so yeah, last month we talked about Tevet. Okay, and then we kind of brought the story of Hanukkah, because the Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month of Tevet, actually takes place in Hanukkah, during Hanukkah, and this month is Shevat, and Shevat is it's an interesting month. It's not like one of those months where you have like a lot of holidays and things like that. We have like maybe 2 or 3 months during the year in which like no holidays take place, and it looks like they don't have a very clear significance, these months.
Right.
We talked about the month of Cheshvan, right? That was when we talked about the rain, because it's exactly when we begin to talk about the rain. But there's no very obvious holiday taking place. So it's not like Tishrei, where you have all the high holidays, or Nisan, where you have Pesach, and Sivan, where you have the Shavuot, which is like Pentecost. We have like 2 or 3, like almost no significant days.
Right.
Shevat is probably one of them. Shevat has one very significant day. It's right in the middle of it. Okay, it's really just one day, and it's not a day which is connected to anything listed in the Torah explicitly. It's a day called Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat, 2 is actually the 15th day. Okay, so it's the middle of the month of Shevat. Tu B'Shvat. Okay, the 15th of Shevat.
Okay.
And in our tradition, Tu B'Shvat is considered to be, and I'll say it's very maybe it'll sound a bit childish when I'm going to say it's the birthday of nature. Okay, it's the birthday to all trees.
Oh.
That's what it is. It's the birthday of all trees. And it has, and we'll explain in a second, the significance. But this day is very much connected to the obligation, to the duty to give God a 10th of everything we have. Okay. Now, when I talk about a 10th, I don't necessarily mean take the fraction, 10th, and give that to God. It's not necessarily that amount, but you need to give something out of everything you're having, out of everything you have, everything you get from God. You have to give Him something.
Interesting. So when is it described as a 10th?
It is written as a 10th. It's written as the word, not really as a 10th. I'm sorry. It's not really written as a 10th. It's written as maaser. Okay. Maaser in Hebrew is it comes from the number eser. 10, eser is 10, right? Eser is 10, and maaser is the word which repeats itself all the time. Okay, but it is not really the Hebrew word for a 10th. Like when you take everything and you divide it in 10. Like it's not really that amount, because that is a different word. That's asirit. But here we have maaser. Maaser is something you need to take out of everything you have and to give it to Him in a certain way. We'll see in a second, but
it's like a portion.
And then in our tradition, basically, we have traditions which go all the way back to Moses, and we know that we have, let's say, 3 degrees of how you want to honor God. You can give 1 divided by 60, 1 divided by 50, or 1 divided by 40, and it's called levels of how much do you want to give Him? So if you want to give the minimum, it has to be 1 divided by 60. Okay, take everything, I don't know how to say, 60th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would you say that?
Mm-hmm.
So take everything you have or everything you need, like the overall amount, divide it by 60 and give that to the temple or the priest or the Levite, we'll see. And then if you want to give a bit more, take everything, divide it by 50. And then you have each portion is a bit more, and then you give that. That's like the middle, let's say, level. But the best thing is to give 1 divided by 40, a 40th. That's considered to be, a nice portion. It's like you're giving it. We have an expression in Hebrew saying, "good eye."
Good eye.
Yes, there is like bad, like when you look at things in a good way, and you want to give, you really, really want to give, then you say Ein Tova. Ein Tova is like with a good eye. You're looking at it in a good, positive way, and you're deciding that you do want to do this. You're not just doing it because you have to, because it's listed in the verses. You want to give a bit more, and that's basically our tradition.
Right.
That's the tradition which goes all the way back to Moses, and these are the 3 levels. But the whole thing talks about. But I think today, when we say giving a tenth, giving the maaser, right? That basically became. It's not really about the quantity when we just talk about it. It's the thing. Okay, it's the maaser. Okay, and maaser is a very interesting thing because it goes very early in the scriptures, even before Torah was given. Even before Torah was given on Mount Sinai, we see something about the 10th. We'll read it in a second. And but just we have to bear in mind that we still need to connect this topic to Tu B'Shvat. Okay, so how is Tu B'Shvat relevant? The 15th day of the month of Shvat, which is the month we are now starting. How is that relevant? How is that day relevant for this whole general topic called giving God something?
But tithing, we call it.
A tithing.
Tithing. Yes, okay. And it's kind of interesting because there's quite a lot of discussion, I think, in Christian circles, and there's that really say that we still need to do this, and others that say no, we don't need to do that anymore, and then you get questions like, or do I tax on my gross income or my net income? And so there's all this. Do you have those questions too? Well,
we have these debates. All the Jewish tradition. The Talmud and like throughout the years, it's a huge discussion of how to give it, how much you need to give, when do you give it, what happens if you're late giving it, what's the consequence? Obviously, it's an explicit mitzvah, it's an explicit command we have out of the 613 commands. So what happens if you break that command? Millions of questions. Really, it gets really intensive. How? Because it's so important to give him something. And but before we go into the verses, when I say to you, maaser, let's say tithing, giving God something back. What is it? I mean, how do you look at it?
Well, there are a few things. There are a few things that come to my that I think about. I think one is like for me. In fact, it's interesting when I was back in Canada this over Christmas, and I did a little video where I played a Christmas carol. But I talked about this carol because I love there's one verse in the carol, and it says. Well, it's talking about, it's like the shepherds, it's like a child that's coming when Jesus is born, and he's coming and he's saying, what can I give him? Poor as I am. If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can, I give my heart. And so I think the ultimate giving is our heart. And so that for me is like I can give, and I know that's important to give to God, and to give out of my finances, to give out of my time, to give out of my talents, all of those things. But I see it as it's more than just about finances. Much more. It's about recognizing that everything we have is a gift from God, and that he actually is entitled to all of it. And so really, what I give him is really it's a very small amount compared to what he's given me in the first place.
How can you even, it's a question. I'm just bringing up the question, and maybe during the time that we're going to be talking about this, we can try and answer that.
Yeah.
Why does he need anything from us? I mean, it's not like he needs these things, right? He doesn't need, these amount of course he doesn't need, money or anything material, or that's because that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about giving him something from our materialistic property, finances, even time, let's say. Why do we have a command, for example? We were talking about giving God our hearts.
Yes.
But I'm going to ask something, and take it the right way. Okay, it's just take it the right way. What kind of a God demands you shall love me? What's the story there? I mean, what's that all about? You shall love me, as a command. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. You shall love your God. Deuteronomy, right? Right after the Shema Yisrael. Hear out Israel. God is yours. God is one. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. You shall love your God with all your heart, with all your might, with all your being, with all your. What's the story there? How can he command us to love him? How can you command someone?
In a sense, you can't command someone to love you, can you? The only way I can understand that is, in my own experience anyway, I've found that the more I love him with all my heart and everything, the more I love him, the more I love him. I don't know.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. No, seriously, it leads to this. It's like entering in to a partnership with God. I think he wants to share himself with us. And so that when we respond to him saying, you shall love me with all your heart, as soon as we make that move towards him, it's just like, it's like this huge hug that comes from God towards us. And then that makes you love him even more. And then so I think it's kind of this decision. It's like that decision to walk with him, that decision to trust him. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer the question, how can you command someone to love you?
So it is a question. It's more of a philosophical, I think it's more like philosophical, theological, question. Let's leave it for now, okay? Because there are
we'll have the answer at the end, won't we?
We have all the answers here, okay? If anybody is looking for answers, come here. Just watch us every month. No, don't. I mean, it'll get you more confused. Seriously, we have more questions than answers all the time. Let's read something. Okay, let's read something, and we're going to be reading from. Okay, you can open your Bibles as well. We're going to be reading from Genesis 28. Okay, Genesis 28. It's a very lovely, one of the loveliest stories about Jacob's dream, with the ladder. Jacob's escaping from Esau. We know the story. And Jacob is afraid, and God is showing him this vision, of angels going up and down. And we do talk about it during, on the week, quite a lot.
And on the film.
And on the film as well, that's true. Okay, and I would like us to read verse 20. Okay, do you want me to read it in Hebrew and then you can...
read it in Hebrew.
Okay, so וידר יעקב נדר לאמור אם יהיה אלוהים עמדי ושמרני בדרך הזה אשר אנוכי הולך ונתן לי לחם לאכול ובגד ללבוש ושבתי בשלום אל בית אבי והיה אדוני לי לאלוהים והאבן הזאת אשר שמתי מצבה יהיה בית אלוהים וכל אשר תיתן לי אסר אסרנו לך.
Okay. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, Then the Lord shall be my God, and this stone, which I have set up for a pillar, shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will give a full tenth to you.
Now it's so according to Jewish tradition, just because of this, because of this ending of the verse, this stone will be the house of God. We believe that the dream took place actually on Temple Mount. On Temple Mount, where the temple used to be, and then Jacob is saying, I will give you a tenth. Later in the verses we see that the only place that God wants our tenth is the temple. Like the place the place which I chose to reside my name, where I chose to reside my name, where my name dwells, where I dwell, that's the only place we can bring our tenths. So of course it brings the question, so what do we do with it today when we don't have a temple? Right?
Could it have equally been where the tabernacle was in Shiloh?
Of course.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes.
Because that time, during that time, that was the place, the chosen place that God chose. I mean, when they were in the desert, the chosen place was the tabernacle itself, even though it moved from place to place. So it wasn't, and this is where everybody brought, their tenths. Yeah, I can't say that. Tenths. So this is the first thing. Now, Torah was not even given, right? It's before Mount Sinai, a lot before Mount Sinai, and Jacob, as the father of the nation, he's making this commitment. Now we can of course ask the question: how could Jacob negotiate with God? Now, if you keep me safe, and if I return to my father's home in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. Okay, you don't put conditions with God. You don't negotiate with God. You don't do that with God. I mean, if you do this, then you'll be my God. But first, let's see you.
That's funny. I don't read it like that.
What do you mean?
Well, it's almost like like sometimes we might use that kind of expression of, and if God does this for me, or if God does that for me, then, in other words, I know He's going to. I know you're going to, and therefore.
So you can say, when God does this for me, then But again, it's like you have a condition there. So what if God doesn't fulfill this your wishes? What if He doesn't do what you want Him to do? Let's say God did not keep Jacob during the 20 years in Laban's house. Then what? Then he wouldn't have been his God. And then what would be? With me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
You're like the father of the nation. It's a question, and of course there is a discussion around it. I'm just giving this as an example of the Jewish way to read the scriptures and how we ask the questions about everything. Every little word. Right. You translated the end as I will give you a full tenth. Okay, a full tenth. We have something a bit different. We don't talk about a full tenth. We say we have two verbs here. I will tenth my tenth, or something like that. Aser asrenu lach. It's repeating the verb twice. That's
why they use the word full, I guess.
It's a symbol of commitment. It shows a stronger commitment. Okay, and then of course we have to ask the question: has Jacob fulfilled his word? We don't see in the verses later on. We don't see that Jacob is taking a tenth and basically. He's not corresponding with his commitment. Okay, we don't see that. So of course it's a question. If he made a commitment, then we shall basically read the verses and see. Okay, Jacob, did you do what you said you're going to do? And they actually do it in the Talmud, and they come up with very, very interesting conclusions about many things, which is not the topic, but I'm just giving this as an example for the Jewish way to read the scriptures. Which
is a very it's something we maybe need to do more, because I think sometimes we make big promises. We say things when the question is, it doesn't mean a thing until we've done it, until we do it.
Can you elaborate a bit more? You're scratching my, you know what I mean? It's like you're...
Well, we might say to God that we're going to. It's like this time of the world. Let's say, for example, a lot of people, we've just now entered in the new year in the Gregorian calendar, And a lot of people are, just before New Year, they make all these New Year's resolutions, all the things they're going to do. Now, so
I'm going to lose weight.
I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get up at this time in the morning, and I'm going to have my time with God every day, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that.
And then January 1st comes.
And then we maybe do it for about a week, and then it sort of starts to, it's hard as to keep commitments. And I think this is kind of off topic, but just because we're here a little bit.
There's no off topic here.
There's no off topic because we're here. I think one of the things that I have grown to appreciate so much as we talk about things, and as I understand a little bit more about the Jewish way of thinking and believing, I think that on the whole in Judaism you're much more comfortable with the fact that we're human. And I think as Christians, I hope that I'm not offending anybody, but I feel that many times we think, it's almost an embarrassment to be human. It's if we should be better than that, or we should be more spiritual, or should be more this or more that, and I think that when we really get in touch with the fact that we are human, and to feel more comfortable with that God then becomes bigger in our eyes. That he is able to be who he is much more fully.
You're touching a very deep question in Judaism, saying what's more, let's say, what's greater? What's greater? To be alive, basically your soul is here in this world, in a physical body, or when your soul is up there, under the wings of the manifest presence, the Garden of Eden, and all is good. And what's greater? What's greater? And there's a very strong approach that says that of course being alive is greater, because only here you can fulfill the commands. You can't keep God's command. You cannot keep God's word in heaven. You can't build a sukkah. You can't blow the shofar. You cannot fast. You cannot keep Shabbat. You cannot, because you don't actually work. So how do you actually keep Shabbat? You just cannot keep God's word when you're dead. That's the whole importance. That's the whole meaning of being alive, to be able to serve Him. And this is why we're here, right? I mean, this is why we're here, chosen to do the things we do, and sometimes chosen to do the things we don't do. But that's why we are here. And so there's a very strong approach, and many of our sages they write clearly. I mean, of course, being alive. I mean, who's greater, a man, a human being, or an angel? Of course, a human being is greater, because we are the ones who were giving the word of God. They don't keep the word of God. They can't circumcise, for example. They can't. I mean, but we can, right? They can. They don't have children to raise and to teach them about God, and we do. It's. I mean, we have a very, very intensive covenant here in this book, with so many details, with 613 commands and tens of thousands of details of how to keep these commands. Right? Commands is just the what. What do you need to do? But it's not the how. Right? Okay, so I know I need to, for example, keep Shabbat. Okay, but how do I do it? Millions of details. I mean, really, it's very, very intensive. Very intensive. So of course, being alive, that's. I mean, only if you're alive you can do it. You can only when you're alive you can walk with God. But I'm not saying this is a clear-cut answer. I'm just bringing it up. I'm just sharing, the
because
way
many would say,
looks at it.
our time here on earth is just temporary. It's a short period.
It for sure is.
Compared to eternity.
It for sure is. It for sure is. But it's given to our souls as a privilege to take it to a higher place.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a corridor. We're not here just to, as a waiting area.
Right.
We're here for a purpose.
Yes.
And it's like we always say, this world is a corridor, and at the end of the corridor, and you need to do something as you go, all the way through it. Otherwise, you haven't done anything.
So when you were talking about just then, you were saying about the commands and the things. So would you say then that what we call tithing is a command?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
so
see.
then, what about? Yes. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just by coincidence.
You happen to know where that is.
Yeah. I mean, wow! It's like this. There's a red thing here. Wow. Amazing. Let's take Exodus 13.
Okay.
Okay. Let's take Exodus 13, and still we are before. Okay, this is before Mount Sinai event. This is before Torah was given.
Right.
Okay, before Torah was given, we know that there are a few commands that were given. This is before Torah was given, and this is one of them. Okay, let's see Exodus 13. I'm gonna read the first two verses, then I'm gonna jump a little ahead, and then you can translate. Okay.
Okay.
So וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור קדש לי כל בכור פטר רחם בבני ישראל באדם ובבהמה לי הוא. Okay, these are the two first verses. Do you want to read those?
Yeah, the Lord said to Moses, consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whatever is the first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both of man and beast, is mine.
Now I'm going to verse 11. והיה כי אביך אל ארץ הכנעני, כאשר נשבע לך ולאבותיך, ונתנה לך, והעברת כל פטר רחם לאדוני, וכל פטר שגר בהמה, אשר יהיה לך הזכרים לאדוני. Okay, so verse 11.
When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all that first opens the womb. All the firstborn of your animals that are males shall be the Lord's.
Now let's go to verse 14. והיה כי ישאלך בנך מחר לאמור, מה זאת? ואמרת אליו, בחוזק יד הוציאנו אדוני ממצרים מבית עבדים.
Where'd I go?
14.
And when in time to come your son shall ask you, what does this mean? You shall say to him, by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery.
So you see in the translation, like in Hebrew, it doesn't say when the time, like in the time to come, your son shall ask you. We say, and when your son will ask you tomorrow. We actually have the word tomorrow. והיה כי ישאלך בנך מחר. Yeah, the word tomorrow. So it's very, it's in the near future. God is saying that it's going to be in the near future that the next generation is going to ask questions.
Yeah.
So we see this reasoning. First of all, we see the command to give the firstborn. This is just for the firstborn, but of course we also have verses like this for the fruits and like from everything basically. We're not going to read everything because it's really the same principle, but this is just about the firstborn, and from man and animal, and we see that there is a connection between. Why do you need to do this? Why do you have to do this? Because I took you out from Egypt. What's that got to do with my firstborn? Right? It's a question. God is really saying this is because of this. There's a direct consequence. Right. You're doing this because of that reason. Let me tell you a little, not story, but just to share something from our past. We had the privilege, Leah and I, my wife and I, we had the privilege of actually having a firstborn son. Okay, now the thing is about giving your firstborn, even until today. Until today, parents to a first baby boy. Okay, now it has to be the first fruit of the womb. Meaning, if let's say the woman had a miscarriage before that, it's not the firstborn anymore. Okay, so it's only the first born, but it has to be a boy. Okay, that's what it says. It says the males, right? It talks about the males. Why? God knows. Okay, but that's what he said. So he wants that, and we actually had the privilege of having a first baby boy, and we actually had to redeem him from a priest. So, but
redeem him from what?
Like because we know that we have to give it to God, right? Giving him to God, literally saying, giving him to God. The firstborns, they served in the temple. They had to serve in the temple, just like Samuel did. Just like Samuel was given to the tabernacle. Hannah gave Samuel to the tabernacle, and he was there, and he served God all of his life.
Right.
And all firstborns should have been doing that. Should have been doing that.
Yes.
And because first of all, we don't have a tabernacle, we don't have a temple for sure, and also when we did have it, the parents had to redeem the son from the priest. That was the ritual. Okay, they had to basically buy him from the priest. Okay, so and that is a ceremony taking place. It's a command. It's a listed command in the Torah, and you have to do it when the child is 30 days old. Okay, just like you need to circumcise on the 8th day, like when the baby is 8 days old. Here you need to redeem him from the Kohen when he's 30 days old, not later, not earlier. Okay, when he's 30 days old, and it's a whole. I mean, it's a serious thing. You invite a lot of people. There is a big meal happening. It's just like the ceremony of circumcision. It's a big deal, and people are very happy to come and take part in that, because you don't get much. You don't get many opportunities to actually be present in such a ceremony.
Yeah.
So I mean, myself. I mean, I'm 32. Besides the one we did with our son, with two, I saw two more.
Wow.
Yeah, because you don't really get much opportunity to do that. Only if it happens in your inner circle, like your closest circle. And we brought a priest, and we had to buy him and we had to buy our son there's a fixed amount that you need to pay the priest. Okay, it's something which is it's like five coins of a very old currency, which today is about 82 shekels, something like $22, okay, or $23. Yeah, I wish these were my expenses for my children, right? Monthly.
Paying a lot more sense.
Yeah, but we actually had to do it. I can show you pictures. It was such a moving thing to do. It was a moving thing to do. We brought the priest, and he was holding tzur, and I had to read like a certain.
Do you remember the kind of content in the prayer?
Yeah, it was first of all thanking God that He gave me a firstborn son, that I have the ability to fulfill that command. Not everybody has. All right. Right. Sometimes you have a daughter. Sometimes maybe the woman had a miscarriage before, and it's not working. Also, by the way, if the first son is born in a C-section, you don't do that as well. It needs to be natural. The birth needs to be natural. So there are a lot of terms for that. Wow. So thank God we had the privilege, and you actually thank God at the beginning for allowing you to be able to keep that command. Maybe the whole purpose for it was just for me to be able to share this with you guys, and to tell you how it was, because it was really, really special. And then of course we have to declare our intention to redeem him from the priest, and that we recognize the fact that we are actually doing it because of this and this, and because of the fact that we were taken out of Egypt. We're talking about 3,500 years ago, right? Something that happened, and it still continues to affect our lives until these very days. Wow. So it's been really, really unusual. I remember every detail of the ceremony. It was great. It was really great. And at the beginning, and I need to ask the priest. I need to say, can I redeem my son from you? So our priest, he was funny, and he said no. And then he started, going out of the room. It was really, really. Wow. Inspiring. It was really inspiring. I'm buying my son from the priest, who is the messenger of God in the world. Yeah. Amazing. So amazing.
Again, it comes back to that whole thing that everything that we have belongs to him.
Everything. And it gets to a point in which sometimes we, let's say, talking about the children, for example, if it gets a bit rough, with the kids and everything, there's this point where I say, your children, you take care of this, okay? I can put them to sleep, you're gonna do that. But it's like that about everything. If let's say you're building a house, so you need to say, it's going to be your house. It's going to be a place in which you would bring in guests and talk about, the name of God and glorify Him. So you need to help me with this. It's yours as well. And once you do that, once you recognize that everything you have is His, it's so much easier to do. Yeah. Everything is easier to do, and you know that He will provide. He can take care of everything. You don't have to be so down to the figures all the time. You just know that He's going to help you. So you need to be realistic, of course, and human, and you don't just say, okay, you do it, and I'm just going to sit back on this couch, and that's not going to happen. But once you've done everything you can, then you know that He's going to help you. So that's about the firstborn. Let's just go to read something else. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was just wondering, I have this song that I would quite like to sing.
Which?
It's called You're Worth It All. And I'll just share the story of this song. It was, I wrote it at the time when some of you know about the Oratorio Terzin that I wrote. Big thing. It was a really big thing in my life, and it was a total time of having to trust God for provision. I know, like majorly for provision. And so here
provision
I was.
Is like Him telling you what to do, or is that?
Provision in terms of finances.
Okay.
I mean, huge amounts of money to put this thing on. And just going ahead, doing it because I knew He'd asked me to do it. So it was already an offering it back to Him.
Wow.
And so at this particular time, I was in New York because we were going to be doing it at Carnegie Hall in New York. And I was staying with some friends, some people in Brooklyn. And I woke up early in the morning and they had a nice big grand piano. And I just went to the piano and I started singing this song. And it talks about, in a sense, the struggle sometimes that we feel when we know we have to give it. And it's like, I know I have to, and I know you're worth it. And because of all the stuff that was going on around me at the time, which was hard, I'm saying, you're worth it all, and it's worth it all. So it's like all together, and just thinking about the sacrifice. And we talk sometimes about placing ourselves on the altar. That we actually place ourselves on the altar as a sacrifice, and I guess that's what a tithe is. It's a sacrifice, right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
And sometimes, I've heard people sort of say, well, sometimes we place ourselves on the altar, but then we crawl back off.
I think God really loves those moments where we have this conflict, and He's so there to see, is He going to choose me again? Like, is He going to to do the right thing and follow me? Of course, He knows, like, our life is like an open book to Him, but I'm sure He really loves those moments.
Yeah. Are you gonna play the drum for me?
Yeah.
Worth it all, and it's worth the sacrifice when it's placed upon the altar as a sacrificial life. To know the things unknown that are only found in you. To see the things that you see and to do the things you do. You are worth it all. You are worth it all. And it's worth it all. You are worth it all. You are worth it all. And it's worth it all. You are worth it all. You are worth it all. And it's worth it all. All I have belongs to you. You're worth it all. I want to give it all to you, Lord. You're worth it all. You are worth it all. You are worth it all. And it's worth it all. Wow, there's so much we could talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we need to do another session on this. It's just, it opens up so much. You never did tell us about the birthday of the trees.
Oh, we need to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, whoa.
Okay. Let's
Well,
go.
no, but it's okay. I mean,
Well, no, it's okay.
It's maybe more important.
It's the same topic. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
Okay. One last. Okay, last
Okay.
one. So Deuteronomy 26.
Okay.
Okay, Deuteronomy 26.
So,
And we're going to read, let's say, the first two verses, okay?
okay.
והיה כי תבוא אל הארץ, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה, וירשת, וישבת בה. ולקחת מראשית כל פרי האדמה, אשר תביא מארצך, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. ושמת בתנה, והלכת אל המקום, אשר יבחר אדוני אלוהיך, לשכן שמו שם.
When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance, and have taken possession of it and live in it, you shall take some of the first of all the fruits of the ground, which you harvest from your land, from the Lord your God is giving you. And you shall put it in a basket, and you shall go to a place that the Lord your God will choose, to make his name to dwell there.
Okay, so that
Now, did it still talk about Maaser? Does it still talk about
No. Here it
No,
doesn't talk
it
about
doesn't.
Masa. But you know what my favorite part in this verse?
what?
You should put it in a basket.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the most important thing. You should put it in a basket, not a bag. Not a bag. You should put it in a basket and just go like Little Red Riding Hood to the place where God chose. And I find it's great. It's great. It's really great. I just love God in these moments. So the thing is, now, how is this all connected with Tu B'Shvat? The middle, like the 15th day of the month of Shevat, which is we're now beginning. We know that we need to give a tenth of everything. Now we also know there are in other places in the verses in the scriptures that when a man plants a tree, he cannot touch the fruits of that tree for 3 years. Okay, so the fruits of the first year they go to all of them, not just the 10th. Everything goes to the temple. The first of the second, the fruits of the second year they go to the Levites. The third one go, I think, to the priests, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there is a specific purpose for the fruits of all the fruits, not just one. If you have an orchard, you shall wait 3 years before you can actually enjoy the fruits coming from it. 3 whole years. Okay, it's not like the 7th year keeping, right? People think that the 7th year is hard because you can't touch that. 3 years, you plant a tree. 3 years you cannot touch anything which comes from those trees. 3 years. Only on the 4th year. So
if you're starting up a business then
you need to take you need to consider all your risks. Yeah. seriously,
plant your trees and go away for 3 days.
Something like that. But it's actually like that.
Wow.
And so only on the 4th year you can start and have some profits. And then you also have to begin to giving the 10th. Before that it wasn't just the 10th, or let's say 1 to 40, not just that. It was the whole thing for 3 years, and then starting from the 4th year, you're beginning to give God this 10th, which is talked about in these verses in Deuteronomy. Okay, That's the thing. And how is this all related to Tu B'Shvat? Because Tu B'Shvat is the birthday of the trees, meaning, our sages had to think about it and say, it's going to be hard for people to keep track with all the dates, because back then they didn't really have a calendar fixed, so much. And people are going to forget, when did they put each tree? Let's say you have an orchard with 100 trees. What are you going to do? How are you going to know exactly? So they decided on one day in the year, which is going to be the birthday of the trees, and that's Tu B'Shvat. Okay, so Tu B'Shvat is actually the birthday of all trees. So if somebody, let's say, planted a tree 2 weeks before Tu B'Shvat, let's say today, and in 2 weeks, the year is going to be 1 year old. And then you count another Tu B'Shvat and another one. So after 3 Tu B'Shvats, after 3 days of Tu B'Shvat, you can actually start and do something with those fruits. But but until that didn't happen, you cannot touch those days. So Tu B'Shvat actually became a day for 2 things. One significance is that it's a day of nature. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a day in which we have this like we have Seder on Pesach. We have like the service we do on Pesach. Yeah. There's also Seder Tu B'Shvat, in which we bring a lot of fruits and vegetables to the table, and we say something about each one, especially the 7 species. The wheat and the barley, the grapes, figs, dates, pomegranate, and olives. So we bring those to the table and we talk about them a bit. What is the virtue of each one and what significance does it have for us as human beings? Let's say, the grapes, we make wine out of it, and wine is being more and more prestige, like exclusive, like it's becoming better with years. Yes. And it's just like human life. You have to
which matures.
Yes, exactly. You have to make yourself a better person every year that passes. So we say, the olives, for example, we can talk about, the olive, like the oil that comes from it, and it serves as a light, in the temple, which is a light to all nations, and that's how we should be. So it's like a thing we read about each species from the 7 species, and we talk a lot about the land and how good the land is, and how fruitful the land is. And here it's Tu B'Shvat is the middle of the winter, so everything here blossoms. Everything here grows in the winter. So winter here doesn't ruin the crops. It makes them better. And in the summer it's a bit more difficult because we don't have a lot of rain and it's very hot, so things get dry. But the winter here is a time of an awakening.
Right.
So it's in the middle of the winter, exactly the middle of the winter, Tu B'Shvat, which we have that day, because once Tu B'Shvat passed, meaning that most rain has passed already, and we see fruits on the trees already. We see the almond tree, and we see like all the trees beginning to be with the fruits on it, and so it's a day with the significance of nature, like an awakening of nature. And we look at the nature and we see God through that, through nature. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the significance of giving God, because this is the day in which you count the years of your tree. Basically, every year you need to give something. So on the 1st year you need to give God, you need to give a 10th, either to you give the 10th, let's say, to him, like you give all the crops. On the 2nd year you might give it to the Levites. On the 3rd year you would give it to the poor people. Every time you give, let's say, the Levites, the poor people, the priests, the temple, it's of course giving it to him. Yes. It's of course giving it to him, because he's commanding you to do that, and by doing that you're fulfilling his word, and you are more like him when you do that. And so that's that significance of giving God something back. And we had this question, we talked before, what kind of a God demands us to love him, right? And I think, and you touched it a bit earlier on, he's not doing it because he needs it.
Right.
He's doing it because we need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just no other way for a human being to live without him.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these commands, which are basically all the commands that we have, like all the 613 commands we have, we say and the overall picture is, you should be like me, and you should keep me on your mind constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, people are making resolutions for the new year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the first week, it's like they manage to do it, and then the second week, third week, they tend to forget
Mm-hmm.
because humans are humans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly it. Judaism does recognize the fact that humans are humans, and God is, of course, recognizing, and that is why He's giving us such an intensive system that we are constantly in it, and once we do that, He is always on our mind. There is no way
Mm-hmm.
of forgetting Him for 1 second. If you're taking the system seriously, for 1 second, there is no way of forgetting Him, because there is something that He requires you to do on every single second. Every single second, there is something that you need to do. If I want to eat, then I have to bless in a certain way. If I want to, before I go to sleep, I need to read the Shema. Before I'm finishing my let's say my month of work, then I need to calculate, my tenths. There's always something. The way you raise your children and treat your wife and do business and everything. Every choice you make, He has to say something about that.
Wow.
So that's the significance of, that's another significance of that day.
Oh. I hate to draw this to a close, but I've got a feeling we should. But I have some other questions. Maybe I'll save them for another time, or for just a little snippet or something. But I want to just put it out there, not necessarily to answer it, or to even try to answer it, but it's that whole sense of, do we give in order to get?
Huge question. Huge.
I'm just going to leave that one.
I have another question as well
to
ask, and we're going to leave it maybe to next time. And next month is going to be the month of Adar, which is actually the month of Purim. And Purim is a time of miracles, and I would really want us to talk about miracles and put that in the focus. I think I'm going to surprise you, really surprise you with what I'm going to say. But but the essence of miracles in the world, is it, what is greater, to be a man of miracles? Let's say that God is, first of all, what is a miracle? That we'll have to define that, and then once we've done that, what is greater, to be a man that sees God in His miracles, in His miraculous way, God is really doing huge things for him, or being a man that has God, on his daily life, daily routine, regular stuff, natural stuff, let's say. So we'll have to talk about that.
We will. Wow.
And of course they will. Of course, your question and mine, they'll meet each other, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure. So
you'll close it. I'm good at goodbyes, so you're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. You don't like saying goodbye, do you? Did you want to sing, or should we just we can just kind of say goodbye this time? I think.
Okay.
But please send us your thoughts on this, because these are things that you can see that we're just talking about them, where we're asking questions, but very, very interested to know your thoughts on it all. We love getting feedback from you, so we wish you all the best for this next month, and we'll see you.
And we can say Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Good month.
Have a good month.
Bye.
Thank you so much.